Hey guys, this is a new tutorial covering another new feature. Well, relatively new. It's new to Maya, but it's been in 3ds Max, Houdini, and Cinema 4D for months now. And this feature is called tracesets. So a lot of people have no idea what this feature does or what it's even good for. And it's one of the cool things about having a biased engine. You could really customize stuff and break the rules. I know Arnold can do this and a couple of the production CPU engines, but this is something unique to Redshift in the GPU family of renderers. And so, as some of you may know, we've got the ability to select objects, and under visibility, you can make them invisible and stuff like that, right? And so let's open up the render view just so you can see what's going on. And so this is just a really basic scene to just show what's actually happening here. And so if we do the visibility options on an object, so for example, we've got the red cube selected, you could make it invisible to the primary rays. You can get rid of the cast shadows. You could stop it from receiving shadows, self-shadowing, visible and reflections. So now it's invisible here. Now the problem with this is that this is scene wide, these settings here. And so notice how in the background I've got this mirror, dark mirror object and this chrome ball here. And so if I turn off visible and reflections, it disappears from both the background and the chrome ball. So in the past, a lot of people would have problems because let's say they wanted to only make it not appear in the chrome ball, but they want it still in the background. And so the only way to do that was with trace sets. And back in I think Redshift 2.0 days, we didn't have this. And so this came around in the 2.5 Redshift builds. And so what trace sets let you do is it lets you control on a per object basis where the reflection or refraction, if there was a refractive object. And I don't have one in the scene, but it basically does the same thing just for refractions. And so actually just for tutorial purposes, we'll do that right now actually. And let's turn this red cube, or let's just move this blue cube actually over, and we'll shrink it down a little bit. And we'll turn this into a glass object. And so now it's refracting. And could adjust the IOR a little. And give it a little bit of dispersion. So okay, cool. So we've got this other object here that's refractive, and we've got these two reflective objects. And so just like I mentioned earlier, if we select the visibility options, you can actually turn off features like that. It's not just only reflective. So if I, let's see, move around so we can get there we go. Now we can see the red cube in this refraction. Or is it actually, no, it's, there we go. Right here, you can see the refracting of the red cube on the back. So if I turn off visible and refractions, it gets rid of it. And so what we're actually seeing here, these red cubes, is actually the reflection from this sphere in the back. And so anyways, one of the questions that some people would have is, how do I control this on a per object basis? And so let's say I only wanted the red cube all to only show up on the background and not here. And so to do this, you would need trace sets. And so now that Maya's got them, each application goes about doing this their own way. It's in my opinion, it's a lot easier to do in Houdini, but this is the way you do it in Maya. And so for every object, when you select an object, you have these the Redshift tab, and this is where you would turn on displacement, tessellation, and your visibility options and matte options if you wanted to do mattes. And at the bottom now we've got this option called tracesets. And so what tracesets lets you do is you could create basically a group, kind of like the per light AOVs, where you create a group. And so for our example, we're going to make a trace set for the red cube. Actually, no, let's make a trace. No, for the I meant the back wall, since that's what's selected. So if we click on this and create a trace set, we've got trace set 1. And so for right now, it's only for reflection. You could also get a refraction trace set, but this isn't glass, so it's not going to matter. But like I said, this trace sets let you control what objects are visible to the reflections or refractions on a per object basis. And so right now it's not going to do anything. You could still, we're still seeing all the objects in the background. And so what we need is we need to now, if you select this, it builds a trace set, whatever you named it, onto your outliner list. So it's right here. We've got trace set 1. And underneath trace set 1, there's parameters to include or exclude. So I'll go over what that means in a second. And so let's move this to the side. To control the objects getting connected to this, you need to go up to your window parameter, and underneath the node editor, if you pop up the node editor, so let's shrink this down now. Let's move that to the side. You've got the node editor, which lets you pull up any of the objects. It's a lot like the hypershade. And so if we select our back wall and we click this button right here to graph out the input and output, you'll get this. And so here we have our trace set connected to our plane. And so what you need to do is now you need to feed this trace set node data to exclude. And so to do that, we want to select other objects. So let's select our red cube. So that should be cube number 2. Yep. And so we graph out the cube number 2. Oops, actually not graph out the cube. What we should do is the add button. So actually let's graph out the plane and then select the red cube and then click this little plus button right here, and this just adds the selection. So here's our P cube 2. So now that we've got the P cube 2, if we click on the output, you have your options to select here. And so if we hit other, it'll bring up this list of all the available parameters to output. Now what we want is this parameter right here called inst obj groups. I'm guessing it's instance obj object groups. So this is what we want. So you select this and we connect that into the trace set, hit other, and you see DAG set members, you're going to hit that. So now this is what happened. Our cube, everything else is still reflecting the red cube. It's still in the glass object. It's still reflecting on the chrome. If I were to make the ground reflective, so let's tone down the roughness. And it's a little too high, so I guess it's not reflecting too well. Oh, there it is. You can see that the cube is still reflecting everywhere. Except now, this back wall, we're telling the back wall through our shader network with the trace set, we're telling the back wall, hey, back wall, don't reflect the cube. And so now we could add more objects to this if we want. So let's say we don't want it to reflect the the sphere here. So all we got to do now is select the sphere. Let's move this up and add it to our network. We'll get the sphere node. Just click this, click other, look for the inst obj groups. We'll plug that in, hit other, DAG members, and boom, it's gone. Just like that. And so, yeah, that pretty much sums it up, what trace sets can do. Trace sets are very powerful for customizing a scene. Like if you're art director, somebody says, hey, I like how this looks, but can we get rid of the reflection of that object? This is what you can do with trace sets. And so pretty much it allows you to bend the rules and do that on a per object level. Now let's say you wanted to reverse this, so let's unplug both of these. So now if we let's refresh our IPR. Sometimes the IPR doesn't refresh, so sometimes you gotta hit the reload button or a full render. And so now we've got all our objects back in. So let's say we let's delete this trace set. So let's do this in reverse. So now let's make the cube invisible to everything else. So same way, just go under the cube parameters, trace sets, create a trace set. This will make you a trace set on the side of your outliner. If we check up in here, you'll notice that your cube's here, trace set's here. And now we could just add another object. So let's add the sphere, our chrome sphere. And we'll hit other. We'll look for inst object group, connect that in, hit other, DAG member set. And so now our cube isn't that shiny, so if I were to make this a lot more reflective, and let's just do that. And move our cube over. Well, let's just make this a iron or something. You'll notice that the cube is not reflecting the sphere. And so now the cube is showing up in the sphere, but the cube right here isn't reflecting at all the sphere. And so if I were to turn this glass cube back into something like a plastic, let's just make this black, and I move this over, you'll notice that the cube is showing up, this black cube here, but our sphere isn't showing up. And that's because we've got it connected to the trace set. And so going back to the parameter, if we select our trace set here, we have the option to exclude or include. So what this means is basically one or the other. Exclude means whatever objects you have connected into it, it's going to exclude it and not add them. And if we do include, that's the inclusive, that's the exact opposite. So now if we were to, let's just make this like a polished mirror. Let's see, platinum. And you'll notice now that we can see that, but let's drop the roughness. If I move, let's move our shiny block away. You'll notice now The ground isn't there. The black cube it's creating a shadow, but the black cube isn't reflecting. See? And the reason is because now we're using inclusive mode. And inclusive mode basically means the only objects that are going to reflect are the ones connected, while exclusive mode is the opposite. All the objects are going to reflect except for the one that's connected. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah. And so you can continue to add more objects. So for our example right now, the what do we got? We got the or actually let's use the mirror, because the mirror is more obvious since there's multiple objects. And so we've got 3 objects here reflecting. And so what we want to do is let's just delete our trace set and start from the beginning again. And so you can make more than one trace set also. So now what we want to do is we've got the background, and we're going to create a reflection trace set, and we're going to have it on exclude mode, so the objects that are connected are not going to be reflected. And so now we're going to come up here. We've got our trace set connected to our plane, and we've got our sphere. We want to make the sphere invisible back here. So all we do is hit other, go to instance group objects, plug it in, hit other, and tag set members. So now what if you want to add more? Well, you could click on this little plus button, and now you could keep adding to this. So let's now add our cube. So we'll hit other, we'll do instance object groups, add it onto there, and now it's gone. So now the only objects reflecting is this cube, because we haven't added it to the group yet, but we could add it. And so just to add it in, just hit the plus button, drag it down here, go to other, look for instance object groups, plug it in, and now it's gone. So yeah, that's basically the power of trace sets. It lets you control individually what gets reflected or refracted by an object. And what's neat is, let's say if I switch this over to inclusive mode, now the ground is invisible, but the 3 objects we selected are visible, or the opposite. And so on the forums, in the Redshift forums, one of our friendly Redshift users made a script to make this a little easier, so that way you don't have to come in here and start connecting stuff like this manually, even though I wanted to show you guys this so you can see what's going on behind the scenes. And so let's just delete the trace set, and let's just reload so it's back to normal. He made a script, and so if you open up the Mel script editor down here by clicking this box in the corner, and let's just delete it, and I'll include it in a little zip file for people to download. If you just drag in the script, paste it in, you'll get all this, and you can just go to File, Save Script to Shelf, and it'll save it as an icon that you could use. And so I already did that. It's up here. And it comes with 2 little icons. And so how that script works is you select the objects that you want invisible, and the last object you select is the one that will be the one that you're influencing. So if I select these 3 objects, and then I select the wall last, and I hit this little menu will pop up, and we just want reflection trace set, so we click that. And now if I reload, They're invisible. And so what this script does is it basically just does this automatically. So you don't have to manually wire up a whole bunch of objects. And so you just select all the objects you want to be excluded or included, and then the last object you select while holding shift is the one that when you click the script, it'll make that one the one that gets influenced by the rest. And so, yeah, I'll include that as a zip file that you guys can download. It'll be in the description below the video. And so, yeah, that's a quick little summary just explaining how trace sets work and what they do. Every other app does this a little different, but the concept's the same. And so it should apply in any other application. Hey guys, I also wanted to mention you don't have to go through the node editor to add or remove objects. I kind of just wanted to cover this so you understand what's actually happening behind the scenes with your trace set as you add or remove objects. And so this is kind of just showing you what's happening behind the scenes. And there's actually there's several ways to go about adding or removing objects from trace sets. And so I'll just quickly go over the two other methods that are a lot easier to do rather than doing them this way. And so one of the ways you could do it is pretty simple. You could just add or remove objects in the outliner. So if you check the outliner, let's just hit play so we can refresh the IPR, and you see we have trace set 1. And so if you click on the little plus icon, you'll drop down the 2 objects that are in here. And so if I actually remove cube 2, it'll show up again. And so you could just middle mouse click and drag over in where it says trace set and drop it in, and it'll put them in place. So if I put in our other cube, cube 1, middle mouse drag, now they're all 3 disappeared. And so this just makes it a little easier to drag and drop objects in and out. And so while you're doing this, it's automatically connecting and disconnecting from the node editor. And so this is one way of doing it. This is great if you only got a couple objects, but once you start, if let's say you need to do it to a lot of objects, it starts to get a little more complicated. So for that situation, it's usually better to go under Windows, the relationship editor, and sets. So if you click on that, and then you click on trace sets, you'll have highlighted the objects that are connected to the trace set. So if I unclick one of these, you'll notice that it disappeared from the outliner, and it also updated the IPR. So if I click it again, now they're all back, and there's nothing inside of our trace set column. And so this just makes it easy. You'll have your list of all your objects in your scene, and you could show or hide objects. It's the same thing as like your outliner basically. And so this just lets you select, like if you have one trace set or 2 or 3 or whatever, you just click on trace set, click on all the objects you want to hide. So I can just go, let's do cube, let's do the sphere, and now they're all gone. Or if you want the sphere back, click on sphere and it's back. And so just wanted to quickly mention this, since this is a faster workflow to doing this, but it's good to also have the understanding of what's actually going on behind the scenes with the node editor, so you know how the connections are being made with your trace sets. And so yeah, just wanted to quickly add this update to the video. And thanks again for supporting my Patreon, everybody. And I look forward to making another video. I think I'll be covering volume noise now that it's available in all the applications. As of 2.565, they released volume noise for every app. It's been in Maya and Houdini for a couple weeks now, but now it's in Cinema and every other application. So I'll probably be covering that next, so you can add noise to the global volume fog, which is really neat. So yeah, thanks.